Hello, beloved twin flames and light workers. This is Stephanie Parasha, Divine Light, coming out to you from New Zealand, Aotearoa, and it is the 27th of January 2019. We've just gone through this last week of having a full moon and an eclipse, and I'm just bringing to you an energetic update of the themes that I'm observing in myself and on my own journey and in others around me and in other twin flames that I connect into and work with, that are clients, and just a generalized kind of energy of the collective and how we're tracking and what we're dealing with, what we're working with as a group, and just specifically around the twin flame dynamics and what twin flames are specifically working on. So basically we're still doing the releasing and the clearing of old fear-based templates and belief systems, and this is ongoing. We're still, and a lot of us have actually been physically and emotionally detoxing these out of our systems. I know for me personally, I had, following the New Year break, holiday period, I had a massive gallbladder attack and kind of stomach problems and vomiting, and I really was working hard to clear whatever was trapped in my solar plexus. It was really, really intense, and I've never actually had that much pain and kind of to that degree of where I was actually physically throwing up, and it felt like a really big clearing of, for me, a lot of fear around not being able to stand up for myself, and the template that I inherited through my own family upbringing, where I was in a household that as a child I was really controlled and experienced quite a lot of abuse in my upbringing. And so for me, being paralyzed and frozen when I've gone to stand up for myself and having to clear that out of my solar plexus so that I can actually be strong and access my wisdom and my heart when dealing with difficult situations. And so I've been experiencing this in my workplace, and I know that a lot of you have been experiencing some similar things, where I see a lot of people also needing to step into we call it step into your power, but basically really standing up for yourself and knowing your self-worth, knowing your value, knowing your belief system, and not letting others trample all over you and do stuff around you or to others that is not okay. So I'm seeing a lot of people, really standing up for themselves in a new way, not reverting back to their old defense mechanisms that the ego developed to try and keep us safe, which is the old fight, flight, freeze mechanisms that as we talked about, as we've gone along this journey, that switch has been turned off, so we can no longer access those old default ways of keeping ourselves safe, which was actually not really being in our truth. So this is also about being in our truth as well and being really honest. And so I've seen this also play out in the energetics of the twin flame connection. So as we know, twin flames, when we meet each other, we have really affected by each other's energies, and that's why we get these dynamics of what we call the runner and the chaser, or the push and the pull, where that is a lot about how our fears are playing out, and how when we come into contact with each other, the energies, if they're out of alignment with our truth and with love and with honesty, and we're playing out energetic dynamics relating to fear-based belief systems and templates, this is where things get really energetically confusing, and you get the twin flames not wanting to be around that kind of energy when we're together, or we've got one or the other trying to sort of control the other in order to meet their own fear-based sort of insecurities and So, and what's in amongst all of that, because I know I've been talking to other twin flames about this lately, where I have a friend who tends to be the chaser and her twin flame is the runner. And it's interesting that I used to be the chaser, but I decided that I was no longer going to do that and really let go, to the point where I realised that I've almost become quite passive and not really doing anything and just kind of letting fully go and going into this kind of trusting the universe space that, no longer clings on to the need to know what my twin flame's doing, or clings on to the need to know if we're ever going to be together, or actively goes towards him to try and create connection and just dropping what I call pretty much dropping the rope. So if you can imagine, you've got a push-pull dynamic where one or the other is pushing and the other one's pulling, and we're sort of not coming into the middle. Well, I felt, for me, I'd actually put down the rope, and you can decide where you are in amongst all of this. Like, we've got my friend, for example, who does a lot of pulling and a little bit of pushing as well, realised that she actually needed to just put down the rope and let go and really release and trust her twin flame and trust the process, and to stop hanging on and acting out of insecurities and fear in terms of needing to know the outcome and having expectations of her twin. For me, I feel like I've really let go of a lot of that, but yet I was kind of sitting in a place of just like, oh, well, we'll just see how it goes, sort of thing, and let's just let it, I'm going to carry on with my life. And I think there's also a group of us that are in that space as well. And what I realized was that I'd become quite passive in my connection, and that I was no longer actually doing anything at all that showed that I was even remotely interested in my twin in any way, shape or form. And what I realized that was relating to was a real lack of honesty and realness and authenticity, because I wasn't even able to tell him truly how I'm actually feeling. And I think this also comes in the same way for the whole push-pull runner-chaser dynamic, where maybe we're acting how we think we're supposed to act, or we're acting out of those fears, we're acting out of insecurity, and we're clinging on. When we're acting out of a fear, so in my case, a sort of avoidant fear, so not wanting to deal with it, and using the sort of letting go and trusting the universe part of the twin flame journey to kind of avoid really looking at and going a little bit deeper with my true feelings, and just being vulnerable and putting myself out there and just speaking honestly to my twin about how I'm actually feeling. So what I see the middle part here, if we can, between these polarities where we can sort of go from one extreme to the other, the place in the middle to create the balance is really being real and really acknowledging that, we've got to be as real as we can with our twin. This is not about, as we've talked about many a time, even though we were fed with this Hollywood version of what a romance is and how a couple should look in terms of their physical appearance, and that goes for the male and the female. Like, the guy should be, built a certain way, and this is how the girls should look, and this is how we're meant to behave. As we know, we're breaking all of those things down. We're in all shapes and sizes, all colours, all genders, all religions, all races, and we're all ages as well. So that's what we're working on together, to become really honest with our connection with each other, no matter what, despite all these differences. And in fact, the more differences, the better for twins. The more imperfections, the better. And in some cases, the more insecurities, not the better, but that you're able to acknowledge and to be vulnerable about and to speak about with your twin, and to share from that place of needing, to accept each other regardless of our imperfections and differences. This is where we're closing the gaps of polarities or extremes on either side, and we're coming into that sweet place in the middle where we acknowledge our humanness, our imperfections, our insecurities, and give space and allow for them to be processed within the relationship in a way that gives each other space and yet acceptance to be ourselves with each other. And, that's what we're really aiming for. So what else have I written here? So we're, as we're going through this journey with each other, at times we'll need a bit of space to do our own processing and healing, which we always do on our own. We always take responsibility for our own part in how much healing we're doing of what we've taken on. We also give our twin the space when they're needing the space to do their work. And then there'll be a time when, as the tides go in and the tides go out, that you'll be drawn together again to connect in for the next stage of your journey, which will always be progressing. Even though it feels like you're not progressing, there is a natural progression. And yet, that's not to say we sit passively, just allowing the progress to happen. In some cases, yes, we would. But in other cases, there's the balance of what am I going to do that's going to push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit and challenge myself a little bit to get more real. To get more real with myself and to get more real with my twin. So that's why I decided I think I'm going to call this video today Reality and Honesty, because I think that is where we can release ourselves out of those dynamics of the runner and the chaser and the avoidant and the anxious. So the avoidant bonder is someone that finds it hard to bond and is afraid of intimacy for the same reason of being afraid of being rejected or abandoned. And so that creates a avoidant bonding, which tends to be the runner. And then you've got the anxious bonder, who tends to be the chaser, who needs to have that confirmation and validation that the relationship is completely together and that they are loved and they're going to be together forever and all of these things that are going to create that reassurance that there's not going to be any loss of, or again, any rejection. So both of these extreme polarities of unhealthy styles of bonding create problems for the twin flame connection. And so what I'm talking about here is coming into a space where there's a combination and a balance of trust that things are going to work out, but at the same time being prepared to take the steps that you need to take to be honest with your twin no matter what it takes. So that might mean having a really uncomfortable and difficult and having a courageous conversation with your twin, putting yourself out on the line, particularly if you're the avoidant bonder, that you really are able to just be vulnerable. And what have you got to lose anyway? So, this is all in the name of continually, working on our connections. Those of us that are still even on the twin flame journey, I feel like, definitely things have changed as we've gone along, where we may have lost a few people along the way, and also getting a little bit lost sometimes on the journey of knowing what's even real, what are the parts of it that we are meant to be working on. And there's so much information now out there on the internet, just wading our way through that and having discernment on what is resonant for you on your journey and what feels right as well. So there's also, I feel, there's some areas around the sacral chakra and work being done in the collective around the unhealthy sexual sort of behaviours that have gone on within, for both the masculine and feminine, the shaming, the blaming, the inappropriate and out of balance sexual behaviours that have been going on both sides. So a lot of that stuff is happening as well, and we're going through another kind of level of sexual, I'll call it sexual kind of revolution or evolution in a way, where we are learning how to create a relationship that has intimacy and touch involved, but that does not necessarily have to have sex in the way that we've been shown or told this is how we are to be in a relationship with someone. And so again, twin flames create another whole realm here of newness, where we're releasing the old templates where things were, let's say, I'll give you an example where men and women are supposed to behave in a certain way in terms of sexual acts together and how that's meant to be, and it's almost at times quite fake in terms of how the connection is, or just it's quite mechanical, quite robotic, can be quite primal. And the twin flames are all about connecting on a deeper level with each other, energetically first, and spiritually and emotionally, and creating that level of safety and comfort that is there first with each other, and the ability to communicate very deeply throughout the whole experience of physical intimacy and touch, and creating a whole nother dimensional space relating to our sexuality and intimacy with each other. So those are some of the themes that I'm seeing out there for twin flames collectively, and for my own journey with my own twin. We've just gone through a little bit of a period where we had a kind of a lull in our communication and a bit of separation, which I felt was, while I was doing a lot of purging and detoxing, I felt like my twin was also doing the same. And often when we're doing that, we'll have quite a gap from each other where we just don't really connect, and then all of a sudden we'll come back in and start connecting again and communicating, and just messaging each other, or just seeing signs again, or little indications that we're ready to go to another level. So I often find when there's been a detox or a purge, it'll be the next stage of connecting in with your twin on a deeper level. So for my twin and me, in my case, I got intuitively that the next time that we actually see each other physically, like this has been quite a long physical separation that we've had, that we actually do need to become physical with each other. So that's what we've been doing. We've been preparing our physical and emotional bodies to be able to withstand the energies that will take to come together, because as you know, the energy dynamics with a twin flame relationship, if you come together too soon, or the energies aren't right, then they really fizz out, or you sort of do really magnetically repel each other, and you sort of pull away because it just doesn't align. There's certain things that we're still working on, perhaps within ourselves, within our traumas, that don't allow for that connection to come in a clean way where we feel safe with each other. So my twin and I have often gone through that, where we really magnetize together, we want to come together, but when we do, we often find that we definitely trigger each other up with some of the stuff that we're both needing to clear within ourselves, that pull us out of alignment, that pull us out of our truth and our honesty and our ability to be in balanced love with ourselves, the universe, and with each other. So that's pretty much what I'm tuning into overall. I don't want to make this video too long, but I wanted to make sure that I at least put out a video, because I know it's been a wee while since the last time I connected with you all, and I thought it was time. So I hope this video does help you on your journey, and please let me know what you've been up to out there, what's going on for you guys. All people are really engaged in all sorts of things right now, but knowing that, our journey does continue of the clearing, the healing, the purging, the connecting, and continually upgrading, of course, because with each clearing we do, each healing we do, each release we do, each purge we do, we step it up to the next level. We keep growing and evolving and becoming super amazing with ourselves, connecting in with our own higher selves and essence and divinity, so that we can then become more in alignment with our beloved twins. Okay, everyone, I'm going to leave it there. If anyone would like to connect with me personally, I do still do sessions. Even though I'm working a full-time job, I often have times that come up in the evenings and the weekends. So please do get in touch. I'll leave the link below to my website if you want to get in touch. And in the meantime, sending you out all a lot of love from my heart. Thank you very much for listening. Okay, bye for now.